Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. We're continuing our coverage of the ongoing war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And to start things off today, the incursion in Belgorod, in the area to the west of Belgorod. Now, we are continuing to see, especially by various content providers on YouTube and other media outlets, discussing this incursion, this operation by alleged Russian revolutionaries, Russian resistance to the current leadership in the Kremlin. Now, is that what's happening? Is there a organized, effective resistance that launched this military operation? And if so, what was the objective? Well, there does not appear to be an objective. It appears that it was a harassment operation designed to take control of a very small amount of Russian territory just across the border, and then launch drone strikes on the city of Belgorod. Now, the Ukrainian government is claiming that they have nothing to do with this, that this is an internal issue from inside of Russia. But that's simply not true. As I talked about yesterday, the idea that some sort of armed group would form itself inside of Ukraine without the tacit approval of the government in Kiev and then launch an operation into Russia is really nonsensical. And again, the unit that entered Russian territory is a Ukrainian unit. And again, the reality is that this operation by the Ukrainian military west of Belgorod was designed to take eyes off of two glaringly apparent issues that are going on right now. One was the defeat in Bakhmut. That was a significant defeat with significant casualties being taken by the Ukrainian military. And then two, the recent airstrikes by the Russian armed forces, both cruise missile strikes, aircraft strikes, ballistic missile strikes, kamikaze drone strikes, that have prevented the Ukrainians from launching this much heralded counteroffensive. So in order to respond to these two essentially defeats, one, the counteroffensive just can't happen right now, two, Bakhmut, there had to be a diversion. And that diversion was the incursion into the Belgorod region. That's what you're seeing here. So again, I get it. I understand the why, but again, it's more or less a false narrative. There is not an active Russian resistance. Any resistance to the Russian Federation is organically created inside of Ukraine. And that is one of the reasons why we've possibly seen this Russian operation take place. I'm not saying that is the primary reason, but that is one of the reasons. Now, obviously, when Russia crossed the border and launched its operation, granted, the Ukrainian military, as an opposing force, has every right to launch counter operations into the Russian Federation if if it leads to some sort of successful outcome for a war effort. Now, is that going to happen in this case? Well, probably not. But again, this was not designed to be a successful military operation. It was designed to get folks to look here in this area rather than the paused operation in Zaporizhzhia, south of Kyiv, getting folks to look at the battlefield defeat in Bakhmut. We're now starting to learn more and more about the sheer number of casualties the Ukrainian military took, and again, significant, as did the Russians. It was a brutal battle. But again, nonetheless, a defeat for Ukrainian forces. Now we're starting to hear more and more about F-16s being delivered to the Ukraine. Now, is that going to happen? I highly doubt that's going to actually occur. But nonetheless, it's making news, and we'll continue to watch what's happening. But again, from what we're hearing on the ground, is that the incursion into Belgorod is wrapping up. It was actually a fairly large operation by the Ukrainian military. Regimental size, multi-battalion operation to cross the border and conduct this raid. And it was elements of the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainians are going to deny it, of course, that it wasn't Ukrainian military forces that entered Russia, but it was. And, I mean, look, you have to look at these forces involved. And ultimately, those forces that cross the border, they can allege that they're from some sort of Russian resistance group, but they were trained at a Ukrainian military base, trained, given equipment, trained probably by elements of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and ultimately launched this operation. Now, again, probably not going to be very successful. It's wrapping up as we speak, but again, it was not designed to take territory. It was designed to garner attention away from other areas of the ongoing war, which have not gone the Ukrainians' way at this point. Within the context of Bakhmut and the paused counteroffensive operation by Ukrainian forces, yes, things have gone the way of the Ukrainians in other areas. The Ukrainians have been very successful in some areas, especially early in the war. But I think we're getting into a stage right now where at least some elements in Kiev are understanding that they're ultimately in a no-win situation, and essentially this is never going to end for them, and eventually could escalate into something vastly more sinister, and something that the world does not want to see at this point. And I think we're approaching that, and we're continuing to approach that rather than moving away from that. So we're going to continue our coverage. Thank you for joining us today. More to come very soon. Have a good day.